1,
Chime in. It says
2,
one more time I need.
3, 4. You know what? I think we've got a quorum, because I'm showing Bloom, myself, Fox, Glusevich, Cole, and Galloway. Have I missed anybody? Who counts toward the toward the quorum?
Let's see. I'm still letting people in.
Anybody waiting, Christina?
Nope, I just let everybody waiting in. So we have Brian, Brandy, Christine, Jeff Bloom, Tad Key.
Yeah, I'm an alternate, so.
Right, so I've got, for the
Brian.
quorum, I have Bloom, myself, Fox, Glusevich, Cole, and Galloway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 is a quorum because we have so many openings.
Good.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
anytime you're ready, I think, Christina.
All right, well, let's do this. Okay. I'm gonna let Cecilia in, yay. Okay, we have another.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, there's another one. All right, here we go. All right, so Karen, we have a roll call established, the quorum.
Yes.
Okay, now we have the consent agenda and the meeting minutes and the treasurer's report, and we approve those all at once.
Correct. And before you ask for a motion, let me ask Ted.
Yes.
Was there any financial activity since the January meeting?
No, but I am in the process of putting together a budget request, and I'm working with Tina and Brian on that. We still have 700 and some odd dollars in the account, and it's funny, the budget requests over the past few years have kind of been all over the board. So, you know, I mean, I'm assuming that I can ask for a certain amount, and then if we're in trouble, I can ask for a little bit more. But
Okay.
I'll work.
So for our purposes tonight, Christina, you'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes because there's no treasurer's report.
Yeah.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Who was the second?
Cecilia.
Cecilia, okay, and Jeff Bloom made the motion, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Cecilia. Thank you.
Hi, Christina.
All right. Okay, so we're good there, Karen? Then we
You have to ask for a vote. Typically, we just ask if there are any negative votes.
Any negative votes on the minutes or the agenda?
We dare you.
All right, okay. Perfect time to open it up to public comment. And we are going to, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. So if anybody has anything that they want to share, please raise your hand.
I don't have anything off the top of my head.
Wow. Okay, no public comment. Are we sure?
I have my hand up.
You do?
Yes.
Oh,
Brian,
good.
I have a comment as representative from Area 6. I submitted a code enforcement action a couple of weeks ago, and I've gotten 2 emails from the company, which apparently is a third party for doing code enforcement, but I haven't gotten anything further on it. So I just want to put it in for our planning aide, who is Dane now, to come up with an answer at some point. I don't expect an answer tonight, but sometime I'd like an answer.
Can you tell us what it was, Brian?
This was it's on the corner of Orlando and Windsor, And it was a property that's being heavily modified, and the permit only called for upgrade of an electrical outlet to basically charge an electric vehicle. But they're doing all sorts of things, including on county property, putting a wall in and a bunch of stuff, and have cut through some electrical lines. And on top of that, they have a shed there that seems to have power and water because it has a light on at night. So none of those seem to be allowable under county code. So my answer is my request
Yeah.
is to get some kind of answer.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty bold, to say the least.
Well, a lot of things are pretty bold in this area.
So we've gathered.
Hi, Christina.
Thank you,
Can you hear
Brian.
me?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Bob, would you like to go? And then
Yeah,
Brian.
I'd like to bring up an issue that I'm having as a citizen of Cambria. Just wanted to say hi to everybody. My name is Bob McCandless. I live in Cambria for about 3 years now. My wife and I moved to Cambria to retire and start a small business that would serve the community, be a fun place for everybody to gather. And as some of you may remember, when we first moved here, we purchased a residential property that had a bunch of code enforcement issues. We worked really hard with Nick Forrester and Hannah from the Building and Planning Enforcement Division. And working together, we were able to get all of our court-ordered issues with our residents remediated and our property title cleared. Our experience at that time with building and planning was great, and the results were very positive. We're now trying to open a small wine tasting room in a building that has been a wine tasting room for more than 20 years, except for the last 5 years where it has been a bike shop. Before we purchased the building, we went and visited the building and planning desk to have them take a look at our plans and ensure there would be no issues with opening a wine tasting business there. We were told that there did not seem to be any issues. Now it's been over 7 months and we've spent over $1 million and we're still being denied a simple zoning clearance. That makes it impossible for us to get our county business license or complete our application for our beer and wine license with the ABC.
Whoa.
We're doing no construction or changes to the building of any type other than changing the sign out front. Our applications for zoning clearance have been deleted 3 times with us being told that use will not be allowed and that our applications are, quote, clogging up the system. So in an attempt to work with building and planning, we agreed to pay for what's called a pre-meeting, hoping that would get things moving. And if anything, that has only made things worse. I'm very disappointed in how unfriendly the building and planning department is towards small business owners. They don't seem to understand that by not allowing us to open, we still incur all the cost of ownership, including property taxes and mortgage payments. We simply do not have the ability to wait for months and months to get a simple zoning clearance. I believe that we have, over the last few years, demonstrated that we're the kind of people that want to be in compliance with all the permitting and business requirements. But by not allowing us to move forward in building and planning is really killing our small business. And we're definitely running out of time and money on this issue. And it's super frustrating.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring that up at this meeting.
Hey, Bob, where is this located? Where the business is going to be located?
It's right where the old bike shop used to be on Burton Drive across from Robbins and Squibb House.
Oh, okay. You
It
mean
used to be,
Yeah.
it used to be Fermentations for years. The Bonomi House. It's been there since '39. I think the last physical construction was done in the late '80s.
and they're giving you this kind of hassle, Mike?
Yeah, it's been the place has been bought and sold several times since then. I think there's been more than 4 or 5 tenants, and none of them were denied a zoning clearance. So it feels like we're being kind of singled out in a strange way. Yeah.
Thank you. G, if you want to stick around, perhaps this is something we can just connect with Dane on a little bit later when we get to planning, and then he could check into that.
Sure, I'll hang on. I'll just go ahead and go on mute.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay, any other public comment? Michael Thomas, is that you? I think Brian and I are both on NCAC, so I think maybe Brian, you might be seeing the hands because I'm not seeing any hands. So
I've been trying to get on to get separated from Christina, and
yeah.
that's why I show the avatar for me.
Okay, so for all of us here, if somebody has something to say, just wave your actual hand because I think we're having technical difficulties. And Michael Thomas, go ahead. Thank you.
And thanks. And I just wanted to comment and make sure that for, those who are on, but also for those who may be watching later and be confused why there are two NCAC Christinas and there's an avatar. I don't know if this is the way we encourage people to take us seriously, but I just wanted to be sure, somebody hears that the avatar that says NCAC Christina with the mousy head is Brian Glusevich.
Yeah, I've been trying to, we've been tried several things to get me separated from Christina. I even set up a separate account with a totally different email name, but it somehow recognized me as NCAC. So we'll fix it by next week, hopefully, next month, hopefully.
Yeah, and at one meeting, somebody told me that, like you just double click on your name and you can change your name on your screen, but I'm no expert.
The problem is that if I change my name, I change her name.
Okay.
Michael Thomas, I appreciate if you are available for tech support. Brian lives down in Marine Terrace, and we'll
I
get it
wish.
figured out for next month. Yeah,
Otherwise,
so-
we'll call Dan. Otherwise, we'll call Dan Cox.
yes. All right, you guys. Thank you, Michael. Let's keep it moving. So law enforcement. Yes, here we go. Commander Boss.
Hello, good evening. This is Hank Abbas, commander of the Sheriff's Coast Station. So looking at our call for service statistics from reporting period January 1st through January 31st, we had a total of 285 call for service, and as compared to 259 calls for service in the same time frame the prior year. Of note were 33 enforcement stops, 31 preventative patrol activities, 15 disturbances, and 6 vandalisms. Something that I wanted to point out before I moved on was our Sheriff's Auxiliary Volunteer Patrol. We call them SAVPs. These are citizen volunteers who volunteer their time with the Sheriff's Office, and they drive around in marked patrol cars. However, they have a distinctive markings identifying them as volunteer patrol and have yellow colored light bars. Among their tasks are to be essentially the eyes and ears of the Sheriff's Office if a deputy isn't around. So they have communications with the Sheriff's Office through the radio that's utilized by patrol deputies to communicate directly with Sheriff's Dispatch. They perform a variety of tasks for us. One of those tasks that they also provide for the community is what are called vacation checks. So if somebody's going to be out of the house, on a long weekend or go out of town on vacation, you can call the Sheriff's Coast Station and request that a vacation check be done. The clerks at the station will get your information, get the time frame that you'll be out of the house. And essentially what they'll do is during their routine volunteer patrols, they will pass by the house in order to make sure that nothing's out of place. If they find something out of place, then they'll call for sheriff's deputies to respond to conduct an investigation. So their job is not to engage in enforcement activities. Again, it's just to be just an additional set of eyes and ears for the sheriff's office and for the community. And that's what I have, unless anybody else has anything for me.
No, thank you for that. Oh, was somebody trying to say something?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Sure.
First of all, I think this volunteer thing is really great. I'm not sure how you get involved with it, but I suspect if I call the sheriff's office, they'll give me information.
Yes.
We've on one other question. We've also been, talking about a substation up here, and basically in the past, you've mentioned that it would be a matter of the number of calls or how much the public is requesting this or what. I just wonder what it would take for us to jump that hurdle. And yeah, please tell me about the volunteer part too, if you would.
So yeah, with regards to a substation, we do have a patrol. It's not a substation. We call it a report room, up off of Windsor. That deputies will go, or I'm sorry, they're by the Cal Fire station.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That the deputies will go, and we have a sheriff's networked computer there. We have the ability to conduct, lower level interviews. It's not like an interview room like we would have at other investigative divisions, but it is an area for deputies to go. That if somebody needed to speak with a deputy, they may not always be there. So if there is a need for them to go there, they can respond there. But that is a resource that we do have up there in Cambria.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then with regards to Sheriff's Auxiliary Volunteer Patrol or SAVP program. So again, if you did want to contact us to submit a vacation check request, you can contact the Sheriff's Coast Station clerks at 805-781-4630. That's 781-4633. Again, the Sheriff's clerks is 805-781-4633. And they'll help you out with that vacation check. If somebody is interested in the SAVP program and becoming a volunteer, you can get a hold of Sheriff's Crime Prevention, specifically Crime Prevention Officer Grace Norris. Her number is 805-781-4483. That's 781-4483. And then with that, there is we call it an SAVP Academy. But it's essentially a program that's run in the evenings. I believe it's one night a week. I believe it's 8 weeks, but Grace would be able to provide you more information about that. And essentially what happens is you learn about a little bit more about the inner workings of the sheriff's office, get some information on what it is that the program does, what it is that we offer the sheriff's office, and then what the SAVPs can offer to the community. You'll get low speed driving training. So there's familiarity when operating essentially a marked patrol car. Again, it is distinctively marked as a volunteer vehicle and doesn't have the emergency lighting equipment like a deputy's patrol car does, but it is distinctly marked. So with that, we provide some driving training, and then again, just some other information on how to operate safely as a volunteer, wearing essentially a sheriff's office, patch, and operating a vehicle that's distinctly marked as being affiliated with the sheriff's office.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
Yep, thank you very much, and thanks for being here.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Christina, sorry to bother you. It's Chief Burkey. Commander Abbas, would you be able to reach out to me by chance? I don't have any of your contact info. I don't know if that's something you could just provide. I don't know if you want to provide it over this, or if you just reach out to me and send me an email or something. I just wanted to touch base with you if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow. And I've been meaning to get in touch with you as well, just to kind of connect our two agencies.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, sir.
All right, no problem.
Thanks, Christina.
Okay, looks like it's time for our county supervisor. Are you ready?
Always ready, Madam Chair. Pleasure to be with you all this evening, and appreciate all the reports from our folks in public safety. I don't have a whole lot of Cambria specific things that come to mind. What I can do is just tell you real briefly on the board's agenda. We meet for the first time in 3 weeks next Tuesday, and we're going to be talking about how to implement our fire protection strategic plan, which needs more stuff, more technology. It needs more people. It needs more fire stations. There's all kinds of needs we have. We'll be talking about a major transition that's coming up with the passage of Proposition 1 back in March. Rather significantly redrew the funding landscape for mental health services. we may have heard of the Mental Health Services Act, has now become the Behavioral Health Services Act in an effort to bring addiction treatment more into it, but it also scrambles the categories in which we can use certain state funds, and that's going to be probably in ballpark a $10 million shift of what we do within behavioral health. We're going to talk about the potential county participation in the Delta Conveyance project of the State Water Project. That isn't something that really affects Cambria, but State Water does play a role in the water supply here. We have an allocation of some 25,000 acre feet, and we've been a participant in the project for a long time. You may have heard of the Delta Tunnel Project, and we've got to decide what we want to do about that. And then finally, we'll get a report about First Five, the San Luis Obispo County Children's and Family Commission, fondly known as the First Five, invests, again, state monies in programs for kids prenatal to 5 years old. I was really honored and pleased to serve as a board's appointment to the First Five Commission for a dozen years, and this will be all about what they're doing for kids in our county. So a lot of good stuff there. Let me just mention there were a couple of things that came up about regarding the advisory council budget. When you get down to an amount of money that seems to only last you for another month or two, give Blake a call and he will get you the application. What we like to do is look at what you have in the bank and then ask you to set a year's budget. Like to get that taken care of off the top of our community project funds.
Yeah.
So we will be happy to fund the difference between what you have in the bank and what you need to get through a year, and we do that every year.
Yeah.
As to, I guess, the code enforcement case, I'm glad to meet you virtually, Dane. I don't think we've met in person, but it's been a while. We'll get the rundown on that. And as to Mr. McCandless's question, unless you know off the top of your head, Dane, what the issues are there, we'll certainly ask, if I could through you, Dane, to get an explanation from those involved in it. And if you would CC me on the response, we can get that explanation back to Mr. McCandless and see if there's a path forward.
Certainly,
that,
and I'll make a quick comment about it when
okay,
my
fantastic.
turn.
Happy to hear that. And with that, I'm available for your questions.
All right, Ted, I see you waving your hand.
I was just going to say with this mental health and addiction thing, I don't know if you're familiar with ibogaine treatment, but that's something you might want to ask the people that are involved with this thing, because there's been a lot of success with it over in Europe. And I'm not going to go any further than that, but I just want to throw that out there for you to jot down. Question: ibogaine treatment would be, I think, something well worth looking into.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see David Pearson and then Jeff Bloom.
Good evening, Commissioner, to Superintendent Gibson.
Bruce will do just fine.
I was wondering if you could update us on the San Simeon issues. They don't have a delegate on here to bring us up to speed anymore. So if you could just, if there's anything going on.
Yeah, I haven't. I actually have not heard of anything. They are in the process through the local agency formation commission, which handles dissolutions. The county's provided that process a number of questions. You know, if the county is to be the successor agency for handling that infrastructure up there, we need to understand in good detail the condition of the system and the commitments of the district and the financial situation of the district. I just have not been updated recently about that, but it's probably time to check in on that.
Well, but I could comment a little bit. We have tried over the past several months to get some representative from the services district from San Simeon to be at our meetings, and there really doesn't seem to be a services district anymore. The emails go unanswered. And Daniel De La Rosa is a rep from San Simeon, and he's not here tonight. He was here last month. So we don't have really anything more than you do, Supervisor Gibson.
Okay, well, that's it's a challenging situation up there, but we are we are engaged. The county through LAFCO, the Formation Commission is engaged. So it's probably time for me to check in on that.
Okay, thank you. Jeff Bloom? You're muted.
There we go. There was mention of code enforcement being handled as a contract. Is that some recent staffing support that you've provided?
That's I'm not familiar with that system. Again, Dane may have a comment. And if in all instances, since you got Dane here, that might be the most direct path. But if any of these inquiries want to CC my office, we'd be happy to facilitate communication. But I'm not familiar with any third party work in code enforcement for us.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Bruce. Does anybody else?
Yeah, because I can't raise my hand because I'm driving.
Yeah.
I just want to, and I don't know if we're going to get to Bob's issue that he raised. I really just, Bruce, would like to encourage you to look into what's going on with Bob McCandless's property. I know Bob personally, and I really believe that what he's trying to do here in Cambria is positive. I can't fathom what's going on there, so I really appreciate your staff's time on that, because
Sure.
I support him.
Sure. No, we'll like I say, we'll get the explanation of what's going on.
All right, thank you, Cecilia. Yeah, I think we're all excited about Bob's project, and thank you, Bruce. Dane, so Dane was going to introduce himself and do all these things, and then I feel like you got thrown into it. So we were going to go to the land use reports and county planning. So Dane, since this will probably be more of a conversation, and I know you don't have a specific report today, if you want to just say hello to everybody and tell them what's what, and then we can kind of dive into the land use stuff, and we have a couple votes and we can talk about Bob's project.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dane Mueller. I'm a planner with the county, and I'm going to be the liaison for NCAC Slo. So reporting all things project related and general to management, other staff members, project managers, and vice versa. Since Anna left, I've also inherited quite a few of these North Coast projects. So I don't know if anyone in here has a current application in, of course, other than Bob. Maybe we'll be working together from a project manager basis. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And then some public comment came up earlier. Would happily address that. Mr. Key, you mentioned an Orlando and Windsor code enforcement case.
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, yeah, that was Brian, but it doesn't matter. But
Oh, excuse me, sorry. Anyway, I'd be happy to look into that. I think, I can reach out to our code enforcement staff. As Supervisor Gibson mentioned, I'm not aware of any sort of third-party code enforcement team that would respond to such an issue, but we'll figure that one out. And then I think the most appropriate way to handle that would be reaching out to outreach at NCAC Slo with a code enforcement update if there is one. And then otherwise, if there's no code enforcement case, I'll still reach out and then we'll get one on file. Bob,
As I mentioned, Dane, this is Brian. As I mentioned earlier, the emails I got from code enforcement after I submitted a code enforcement request were from a third party that said I forget who the third party company was, that said we are handling code enforcement for the county. And Jeff kind of questioned the same thing. That was not the case before.
Got it, noted. And then I'll follow up with the code enforcement supervisor and get an update on kind of two, I see it as two items. The Orlando and Windsor is one specific code enforcement violation, and then this idea of, how code enforcement would handle a third party coming in and if that is a thing. So I'll follow up with, council on that one. That way you guys have maybe at least an update by the next land use committee meeting or definitely the general meeting.
Was Cynthia somebody or other that I was code enforcement that I worked with for a while? I don't know if she's still there. Cynthia, I can't remember.
Right. It would be Cynthia still.
Yeah.
So I'll follow up with Cynthia and then we'll get an update.
Dane, are you using any, this is Jeff Bloom speaking, are you using any consultants as third-party staffing for the planning department?
To my understanding, mostly we're outsourcing environmental documents just for environmental impact reports. Our staff right now is handling most environmental documents in-house for projects. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah.
It's mostly done in-house.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel for your staffing level. Last time I looked, you had vacancies, and so did code enforcement, so did building and safety. So I'm just curious whether you're backfilling with outside consultants or whether you've been able to staff up now and fill those gaps.
There are certainly a couple vacancies right now, but I think, this is more just anecdote. The people I work with, the retention is really, really good right now, generally speaking. And, the planners that we have on staff are pretty confident right now. I think we're going to backfill a coastal planner 1 position. So, a newer planner to handle vacation rental type requests, potentially ministerial projects, and then another inland planner likely. I don't really know about the other departments. I can't, respond to that. Code enforcement, I'm not sure, but it's pretty much where we're at.
Okay.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Dane. So
appreciate it.
we'll figure out the code enforcement part a little later.
And then
And Dane, yeah, what do you think is the best way? I know Bruce said put him on an email with you guys and you guys will get it sorted out. Do you feel like there's anything else?
well, I don't know, Bruce, if you even want to would you like to be CC'd on the code enforcement one?
Yeah, please, just for our office's knowledge, you give Blake Fixler a call. So just touch, maybe just come on over and visit at some point. Again, we haven't met in person, so yeah, we'll just take that just so we know what the resolution was.
Roger that. And then is that issue addressed? What do you think? May we move on to what was brought up, Bob's issue with the wine tasting bar?
Yeah, so I think we should move on to Bob. And then just really quickly, Dane, I know you were going to be taking over some of Anna's projects. So would that, if Anna was on Bob's, do you know if you're on his application that's kind of getting lost, or?
I, off the top of my head, I don't know. I honestly got reassigned quite a few projects, and there's a little bit of a shuffle around with the department, with promotions and various planners filling, more specified roles. So, gotta double check on that. But in the meantime, during the public comment, I looked and I saw the zoning clearance. I saw a little bit of a case history, and this is certainly something I'm not sure. Well, why not?
Actually, if you would, Dane, if you could just forward that a summary of that case to our office, and Mr. McCandless, if you could contact our office. This is something we deal with pretty often. It's a matter of getting you answers, and we'll see what the situation is, not knowing any of the specifics, and knowing that our land use regulation is complex. I think it would be helpful for me to just get a quick review of what's happened, what the history of this before we start speculating where we are on this.
For sure, and I'm a, as you know, very well versed in the land use and Title 23 and the different aspects of it. And I also wanted to say, Dane, congratulations on your promotion. I think that's wonderful, and I wish you the best of luck there. And I'm sure we can get this resolved. The big thing that is the challenge for mine is the time going by is rough.
We'll get you answers.
I hear
appreciate
you. I took notes of all your concerns and definitely some answers, but it's going to be a little more complicated than just figuring it out right now.
For sure.
During this meeting. So your voice is heard, and I couldn't have said it better.
Thank you, sir.
Bruce.
All right.
And then let's see. And Jeff, I hear you. Cecilia, I hear you.
Thanks. I was going to say more, and I'm not going to because you just said you hear me ending. So I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Dane, I don't know, do you want to stick around while we kind of go through the land use referrals from the past month and one from the month before that we've kind of delayed, or?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. If it's a project I've been working on and I'm knowledgeable about it, if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But if I'm not the project manager, I'll definitely put you in touch with the project manager. And
Oh, thank you. We don't have any questions. I just didn't know if you wanted to stick around and see kind of.
I'll be here.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. And yes.
I'm just gonna sign off. I want to make sure that okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. So as we know, Jeff's not here. I'm just going to run through our land use recommendations for this month. And Jeff Bloom, I think Kermit is here. Yes, he joined. So we have to decide if we want to vote on what we discussed last month, the 499 Drake Street, vacating the portion of the public right of way. I know we've all kind of gone back and forth on email. I spoke briefly with the Fire Chief Burkey about this. Do we want to vote to yes, defer to the county's assessment, or do we want to vote no against the vacation of the public right of way? So Jeff and Kermit, I know we had a lot going on our emails. And Jeff and I spoke earlier, it kind of comes down to how far forward are we looking in terms of something like this, and if it creates a problem down the road, if that needed to be accessed for some reason. But I'm open for
I
discussion.
can jump in a little just for background of where I'm coming from on it. Is one thing to recognize is that the streets are within a right of way. The right of way is wider than the actual street, but while they try to keep the center line in the middle of the right of way, that isn't always the case. So when we go to look at street vacations or giving back to the adjacent property owner part of the right of way, we really need to look at how the street today, but also the street into the future might be affected. And this is sort of an unusual intersection. It's not squared up very well. So I think one obvious question is whether anyone has a reason to believe that the county might someday, for traffic reasons, need to realign the street, not necessarily change the right of way, but realign the street. And the excess right of way is what allows that to happen sometimes and problem solve without acquiring property. This is being driven in my view by a property owner who, with permission or without, took over part of the public right of way and now wants to get it to make their improvements legal. They're an encroachment as it appears on the various exhibits that Kermit was able to provide us. So I don't have any background to how that happened, but I'm sure it's not uncommon here in Cambria for people to have kind of crept into the right of way here or there, and nobody really done anything about it for years. But as to precipitating whether we give the right of way to them or not, I think the bigger issue is whether we believe there's any future need for that excess space for public purposes, be it a sidewalk, intersection improvement, or a realigning of the street. So that's really the choice we're making, not whether we're accommodating this private property owners walls and whatever other improvements are creeping into the right of way. I think we need to stay focused on what's needed for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Kermit, do you have anything that you want to add on this?
No, we looked at it and I don't know why we would care to give this away, since I don't know why he's paid for his land. He's happy. The guy across the street's got land. He's happy. The boundaries are fixed. I don't know why we'd want to narrow the right of way for any purpose we don't have an event for. He should apply for he shouldn't be planting major trees on it. But even so, it's in the county right away and they can cut that tree. So I don't guess there's any big deal about it. I'd say let them plant, but don't give the right of way.
Okay, well, so Kermit, you're saying don't agree to the vacation of the right of way.
Correct.
Okay, I mean, based off of my conversations with you and Kermit and my conversation with Chief Burkey, I feel like we don't approve the vacation of the right of way. And then if the county wants to do it, they can do it. But I think it's a bad, Pandora's box to open. And Bruce, I know you're way more familiar with land use than any of us. Like, are we overthinking this or?
Well, let me, yeah, I'm unmuted here. Again, I don't have the specifics on this, but there's a well-defined process of whether a piece of the public right-of-way gets vacated, and the basic standard is whether the Public Works Department thinks there's any possibility in beyond the foreseeable future even that there's any need for that. And when lots are subdivided, the ownership ends up to the middle of the street. There's a public easement that's let over the portion of the land that's needed for the street. And if that's never going to be developed, then it's certainly an open question as to whether we vacate it. The standards against which that are public safety and public access. And so if the fire department feels that there's a need to maintain open space for their operations in that part of Cambria, that's a very important piece of information that Public Works would need. In the end, the item comes to the Board of Supervisors to be voted on, and with the recommendation from the Public Works Department. So not being familiar, I was trying to do a little work here to just see where it is, but I won't weigh in with my opinions. But again, this is something that happens fairly regularly, and there's a well-worn process to figure out what the recommendation should be.
Okay, so, but we're within reason as a land use committee, NCAC, to just, if we just don't really want to go down that road with these.
If it is your desire to recommend that it not be done, we'd be happy to take that piece of advice. And again, in the end, it gets decided on 3 votes at the Board of Supervisors, and we'll sort of see what planning or Public Works determines is their recommendation, and it's a public process.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so then I will move we do not believe that we are not approving the vacation of this right away.
But I second the motion.
Okay. Karen, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Did Kermit second the motion?
Yes.
Are you on the land use committee?
No.
I don't know whether Kermit can second the motion since he's not a voting member
Well,
of the.
I thought we were voting as an NCAC for this,
Yeah.
Right.
not as a land use committee.
This is
Right, so I think that means that somebody else has to second the motion, is that correct?
No,
Well,
no,
it
it could be
could
anybody.
be anybody from the NCAC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
it's
this
been
is not
brought to the
necessarily the
floor.
land use committee.
Okay.
It's an
Okay.
an NCAC vote. Okay, anybody opposed?
Can I clarify the language, Jane, of your motion? Are we, I'm wondering about saying we approve or disapprove. We're making a recommendation. Should we say that we are recommending against? I mean, we don't approve or disapprove this, right?
Yeah, this is just for our referral.
It's a referral and we approve the referral or not.
Well,
I see.
I think a good way to phrase it would be that we're opposed to the vacation of the street as presented in that referral.
Yes.
And I may be the only negative person in the group. I feel that we should be vacating the right of way. If this were being done from scratch today, there would be no such right of way. So I think we should vacate it, but I probably realize I'm the only one.
No, actually, I would like to add to, I slightly differently said, is that I think that based on what Bruce is saying about what are the conditions on which the county would vacate, that I would entrust it to county public work. If, I'm not familiar with this situation, but unless we can identify, if we feel that we can foresee a public need here, it really shouldn't be about whether or not we are giving something up. And either we see a public need or we don't. And so it seems to say we're opposed. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah. I think you and
The
Brian are.
two of us may be in the minority.
Yeah, I like this. Okay, Matthew's hands up. You want to go?
Yeah, thanks, Christina. I heard Supervisor Gibson talk about if there's an issue with public safety, things of that nature. And to be honest, I'm not that familiar with this development and this process, and I don't know if the chief has spoken on it. But is there anything that the chief has or has spoken about in terms of his concerns about public safety, access, or anything like that? Because that was brought up by Supervisor Gibson, and so I know a motion's already been made. And I know Brian, had his position, but I hadn't heard from the chief yet on if there's any public safety implications.
Yeah, absolutely, Christina. So Christina and I spoke about this before prior to this meeting. And so basically I expressed more or less a kind of evaluation on an individual basis. Looking at each one of these is going to be different. There's not going to be just a one blanket overstatement that, we look at everything exactly the same. So every single property that's kind of trying to do this type of a movement is going to have some sort of public safety evaluation. So this particular one that we evaluated, it did seem like there was probably some infringement or potential infringement on access to the area. And so that was my concern initially. But again, it's an individual evaluation of the properties that are going down. It does kind of feel like once we open the Pandora's box, then we start going down that road. I don't think there's any way to prevent that, but from a public safety point of view, having that open space, having the access to those areas is absolutely imperative. So anything that infringes on that, it would be a concern.
And I'll follow up to that, and I don't mean to interrupt. The chief and I are working diligently on some community outreach that you'll hear about later in this meeting. Access, evacuation is a huge concern to us. We know we have some narrow roads in Cambria that we don't even maintain. We have limited evacuation routes. It's basically Highway 1, and if you can get to 46, then you have one more option. So when we talk about evacuation and fire threat in the community, it's a concern if there's anything that infringes on our ability to get out of neighborhoods. And so I'll leave it with that. Again, I haven't surveyed the property or this exact spot. But if I hear the chief say he has some concerns, then I have concerns. So when we talk about the ability to get out of neighborhoods in this community, when we talk about the fire threat, considering Palisades, Paradise not too long ago, it has me concerned. And if it has the chief concerned, it's something to consider. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you guys. So we have Jeff Bloom, Kermit and I don't
Boy,
recommend.
there's a
Oh,
hand up.
hey,
A hand
Dan.
up from Daniel Crow.
Dan, do you want to go?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Christina. If you recall, when we discussed it on the land use committee, we basically opted for no comment. I think because leaving it to the experts, if there is a safety issue. From what I recall looking at it, it was a random little crescent, like a remaining fragment. But maybe I had the wrong interpretation there. But again, I think it's beyond our purview. Let's leave it to the street and safety people to determine, because it wasn't a large easement. It was just a fragment of maybe when the street had curved differently before the intersection was squared off. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, Dan, we're just revisiting it because we discussed it last month on this meeting. So we're trying to bring it to a vote tonight because everybody's done a little research, and so yeah, that's why we're talking about it again. Kermit, do you want to go ahead?
Well, just on the right of way thing, you're right. It used to be a corner there turned. It's an old figment of something. He loses a little bit on his corner, although he's bought his land. He knows what he had when he got there. It's not a surprise. But the thing is, this, in my opinion, there's an 80-foot right of way that the county maintains through those roads. And the guy on the south side, he got an extra 5, 7, 10 feet out. So you can never restore that by giving away the piece of land that's being requested. You lose your 80-foot right of way down to about 75-foot. We're not going to put a freeway through there. There's really no good reason. But there's no reason to shrink the existing right of way just to accommodate somebody to plant more bushes up. That's my thought.
And I agree with that. And I think furthermore that intersections are the most sensitive part because that's where the most change is likely to happen to facilitate public access and public safety. You're trying to get people one direction or the other, and the fire apparatus are trying to get through the other way. You need the right of ways. And the intersections particularly to be open. What happens on the long linear pieces is a little bit less of an issue as long as you maintain the street width. But the intersections are the area most prone to be changed in the future.
Why?
Because I talked to you, but you didn't talk back. I think you need to mute. Thank you. Sorry, Jeff. So, okay, so Jeff, Kermit, myself, Brandy, yes. So we're all in agreement. We have Cecilia and Brian, there you are. Karen Chrisman, what do you make of this?
The motion is to, let's see. The motion is not to reply with a no comment at this time. The motion is to recommend that the vacation of the right-of-way not be approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
works.
You know, I don't have a strong feeling about it at all. I'm sorry, I'm beyond my purview. So how does it stand now? We've got 2 against and the rest 4.
2 against 4. I don't like to put it like that, but yeah.
So it doesn't matter how I vote, right?
Your opinion's always.
Well, in this case, I think we should have stuck with no comment at this time and defer to Public Works. But that's not the motion. So I am voting against the motion.
Okay, so 4-3. And then Jeff and Kermit, is there any, is it, and Brandy, are any of us upset if we just then go back to, we don't want anything to do with this?
No, I think you need to make the point that intersections matter.
Okay. All right.
They may not matter today, but when you have to go get the right of way back to change them later, it's expensive for the county. And somebody had some notion of why they put that excess right of way in the first place. May have been, 50 years ago, but somebody had something in mind. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it.
Okay. All right. So then the motion stands. And did we have a second? Kermit, you seconded? Is that what happened?
Yes, I second it as a NCAC member. I can't tell what that last thing that you did are. I don't know if there's the land use committee only votes or the NCAC, because there's more than four people, 6 people in the NCAC.
So Christina moved, Kermit seconded. The motion passed, yes?
Yeah. Okay. All right, you guys. It's funny that of all the things that have come before us, like the right of way is what really took us down there. Well, thank you. Hey, I think all input is progress here. So thank you guys for caring. All right, I'm moving on. We have the request from Kyle Mason for a minor use permit, coastal development permit to allow for the demolition and reconstruction of an existing approximately 670 square foot attached garage and construction of an additional 520 square foot garage attached to an existing 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom, 3,044 square foot residence. There are no proposed changes to the residence. And I say that with the caveat that the residence is undergoing construction right now, but under a building permit. So that's a different conversation for later, but right now we are just voting on whether or not to approve the construction of the new garage and the reconstruction of the old garage. So essentially this will have 2 garages. The land use committee has met previously on site and on Zoom, and we've approved it, but so I would like to make a motion to approve. And if I have any.
I'll
second.
second the motion.
Okay, is anybody opposed to this? Okay. Well, that one was a little bit simpler. Okay, thank you. All right. We have another, let's see, this is not going to be. Oh, yeah, so we have 2 other site visits that don't need a vote. One is for our Deer Water Reclamation Facility that we are not voting on yet. And another is for the demolition and development of a 4,747 square foot parcel with a 3,120 square foot 3-story home. We've requested more information on that, so we'll probably be voting on that next month. Stay tuned. And yeah, so that's it for land use. I don't know, Dane, if there's anything that you have. Otherwise, I think we might want to take a break, and then we'll pick back up with CCSD, and the reports at the end should go fairly quickly. So I think this might be the best time to take a break.
I've got nothing to add. I appreciate the opportunity. I'll probably hop out of the meeting in a moment here, and then I'll follow up with Bob this evening. I've been typing up an email, so that way we can get the zoning clearance issue figured out, because I hear you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you being here, and yeah, it's just great to have you on. So thank you.
Yep.
And,
Look forward to being at future meetings too. Thank you all.
And I'll hop off as well, Madam Chair. Good to see you all.
all right, good to see you, Bruce. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right. You guys good for a 10-minute break?
Better timing than usual for a break. Well done.
That was stressful. All right, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, let's see. People are coming back. And Michael Thomas, you know, you're up next.
Oh, I saw.
I'm ready. Ready when you are.
All right, let's give it a couple more seconds. All right, Michael, go on ahead.
Sure. You've got the written report, a couple of sidelines. It's coming up on, I guess, 2 months from tomorrow is General Manager Matthew McElhenny's 2 years with the CCSD, and it really feels. I was just reflecting. It feels like if you're I never run a marathon, but I've run some long, long races, and you just get into you know, a good pace. Everyone around you is, that's how it feels at the CCSD right now. A great team. Just a couple highlights at this last meeting. We got a great presentation from Kevin Mark on the adaptive management plan and what the quarterly monitoring is about. So that's, if you haven't read that, that's worth a listen. Also, we received at the board a presentation from the Community Park Ad Hoc Committee from PROS. And Shannon Sutherland and Jeff Wilson, of course, in my opinion, they knocked it out of the park. So that's progress. You'll hear from the fire chief. I thought it was really notable. He's talking that the chief and GM are talking about community meetings. I'm excited to hear more about that. The board established a new fire protection committee. Many of you have heard about that. I'm sure that committee meets tomorrow. I just looked at their agenda and holy smokes, Director Tom Gray has really lined up an agenda. So that the new fire protection committee meets the third Thursdays. So that will be tomorrow, 10:30. I imagine some of you would want to listen in. Well, I'll watch the recording or listen in, but as a director, of course, I can listen. Yep. But you'll have no such limitation. So also in the notes, I went in a little more depth, given that we just went through the appointments and the standing committees. So I've got a list of who's who on all of the committees, the liaison appointments, and on the standing committees. So it might be a reasonable resource for you all. Weed abatement standards that came to the board. Ordinance and municipal code ordinance related to weed abatement standards. The board churned on that a bit, referred that to the fire protection committee. So yeah, I'll be listening. I guess I should comment. Those of you who are, have any recall of the Forest Committee has recently published an update to Cambria's invasive weeds, what they are and how to get rid of them. So that's a great resource for anyone interested in not having weeds take over their little space of our beautiful planet. The board approved a contract that came from utilities for satellite-based leak detection services. And this technology just blows me away, but they're able to somehow ascertain if there is water leaking from pipes, from water pipes and or from sewer lines via this technology that started from I guess one of the Mars flyby vehicles. And upcoming meetings, I mentioned tomorrow, the Fire Protection Committee. Also, yeah, tomorrow afternoon, Pros Committee, y'all come. Yeah, we've got 3 new members. We'll be getting started. Right now, we have on the schedule, I'm sure Matt may bring this up, but we're pretty excited. Week from, well, today is Wednesday. Yeah. So next Wednesday morning, well, I guess Tuesday afternoon, a truck will drive up with the prefab restroom, and Wednesday morning, we're all going to stand and cheer, and while the crane picks that baby up, drops it into place, and other wonderful things happen. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see who gets the first flush. Strategic planning workshop coming March 3rd and maybe March 3rd and 4th. So that's the first Monday in March. So the board will be doing their strategic planning. We've been getting public input for weeks. Yeah, Q&A.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so I have a question, and then I don't know if it's best directed to you or to Matthew, but congratulations, Matthew, on coming up on your 2 years. Michael, so as you know, I've been getting a little bit concerned with like the general fund, public safety, stuff like that, facilities and resources, like the money that comes out of it, and also that these kind of additional projects, some of the surveys for them and staff time and stuff like that would also be coming out of these same funds, possibly, if the board votes in that way. And so if I wanted to better educate myself on the different funds, the various projects that are kind of up in the air for future, I wouldn't go so far as to say funding, but like, spend, staff time, things of that nature. How would I or any other citizen go about doing that?
Great question. Yeah. CCSD Finance 101 or 10, right? Yeah. Where it starts, I mean, you could tune into a finance committee meeting. President Scott is taking the lead for the finance committee, and they meet. Well, yeah, yesterday, right? The first Monday after the board meeting, regular board meeting of each month. That's a start. I can send a link. There is a page on the CCSD website with all the budget info. That could be quite a challenge to really digest. But
the finance committee meetings would be like a good start, because you hear, I mean, even after the first kind of presentation on NCAC of the potential park, it's like there was a lot of rumblings of people like, well, how's that getting paid for, and yada yada. And then as we kind of move forward, then you see like, okay, well, it could be through grants and it could be through this, but then there's, these potential spends up front, right? For surveys or this or that or the other. And so I'm a big believer in if we can get our basics, come with well-researched basics, then we can understand better how money is moving and form our opinions from fact. But
Director, you want me to jump in a little bit?
Yeah, and I was just going to add, and then you ahead, Matt. But I was just going to add, you think about if you're learning to surf, you're not going to jump off the cliff at Pleasure Point and jump in with the big boys with the big waves. You'd start like at Waikiki on a small day where anybody can surf, right? I don't know. Is that a good analogy? I would say start, attend a finance committee meeting. You can ask questions. There's no, it's pretty darn easy. All right. friendly crowd. There's a bunch of knowledgeable folks there. You'd want to read the agenda packet. There are quarterly budget reports. I will say it is a high fog factor, understanding the way these things are putting together. Read in the preliminary budget every year, there's 10 pages of narrative. So that 10 or so pages of budget narrative in the front of the first round, what's called the preliminary budget. And this year we did update it in the final budget. That's your best starting point for the intro. Yeah, back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard Christina's question a little bit differently, and Christina, correct me if I'm wrong. You were wondering about some of the facilities and resources monies and the park. Like, can you expand on that so I can make sure I can ask your question correctly when we talk about whether it be the community park or anything else?
Yeah, I think that I share, I wouldn't say like an uninformed opinion, but like a gut kind of reaction to some people in the public when I hear about these projects that sound really exciting, right? And you're like, okay, of course, yeah, we love a park. And then you start to look at like, okay, well, where does that money come from? You know, and granted, I understand that this park in particular won't be funded by the CCSD, but as you start to look at that, then I got down a wormhole looking at, oh, that's interesting. So that would come from the general fund. And then I saw that the fire department was funded through the general fund and that facilities and resources is funded through. And so, and I already know that the fire department and facilities and resources kind of do this delicate dance of like, who's using the money, right? And then, but we have a serious fire risk where we are. And so, yeah, I don't know. So I'm probably rambling. I don't know, but I do get concerned because you want great things for your community and you want parks and you want open spaces, but you want to be safe.
Big picture, right? There's the community at large, right? Anytime we look at the budget, we have 5 elected, representatives of the public, and we study, we look at the priorities and the trade-offs. And you're absolutely right. Everything in the general fund is challenged for funding. And as we go forward, you look at the powers that have been assigned to the CCSD by the Local Area Formation Commission, by LAFCO. Fire protection is in there. Parks, recreation, and open spaces is in there. These are powers assigned to the Cambria CSD. Do we have enough funding? Well, shucks, no. And the challenge will be ever present, and it's our job to sort through those trade-offs, and there will never be any easy answer. Christina.
Thank you, Michael. I so appreciate you. And for anybody who wants to know, it's Michael's fault that I'm on the NCAC. Jeff Bloom, please.
A walk in the woods.
Jeff, you're muted.
Maybe you're doing it already, but personally, the way that works best for me is to take your strategic plan goals, and then as you allocate money for projects, hook it back to the strategic planning goals, because then we all know that, well, if fire was a priority for the general fund, then how could you be spending it on these other things? How that all fits together is, I think, what gets lost in the shuffle. So people, I heard Christina mention the startup costs of a project, of staff time going into it and all that. It all has a cost. So where does it fit in terms of your strategic goals? Is it something that you'd like to do, but we don't really have the money to do? Does it require new funding? Because you can spend all the money starting new projects and never finish any of them. So I think, really the strategic planning that you've started last year, that's a little more results driven, I guess is the best way to look at it, is really a good thing, but you have to then actually lean on it to justify the expenses for the general fund.
And Matthew, I see your hand up, so feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. You know, to Director Thomas's, you know, basically his explanation, and it's absolutely correct. All the departments they're struggling for funding, and as a CCSD, as a special district, our revenue generating ability is our Achilles heel, so to speak. And it comes from one pot. And so when we talk about expenditures in one area, it has to come from another area, especially when we talk about the general fund. So these are things that we're going to be talking about at the strategic planning meeting. I mean, our budget is on the district website when we talk about what percentages of the general fund are allocated to the different departments. Like a quick overrun, we've got about 74% that goes to fire protection, 20% that goes to facilities and resources, and about 6% that goes to the administrative department. And all of those come from property taxes. And so we don't have the ability to increase those property taxes unless there's a benefits assessment and things like that. And so when we talk about the various needs across all of the different departments, it's very, very difficult. And facilities and resources that manages parks, rec, and open space, their budget is about $849,000. And most of all of that goes to salaries and benefits for the staff. And then there's just a fraction of that that goes towards, you know, the maintenance. Obviously, the Fiscalini Ranch that we took on takes a lot of our resources. So we're resource starved and financially struggling. To Michael's point, Director Thomas's point, this community park has, at least the master plan was directed by the board of directors for them to complete. It's a conceptual plan. The good part is that the pros committee has acknowledged, right, that this funding probably cannot come from the CCSD. And as a general manager, I can just say, based on our funding allocations, we can't afford to spend it from the general fund reserves, based on just things that are going on in the district. From a public safety standpoint, we do have a couple of engines that we have to replace. So it's kind of been acknowledged that we're not going to be, that the CCSD wouldn't be able to fund this project. We don't even know what the project will cost. But to the Pros Commission's credit, they are looking at 501c3s, fundraising, kind of the same thing that we've done with the skate park project when working with the community council, Skate Cambria. They're raising a maintenance fund. So some of those same philosophies, I imagine, would be applied to the community park. And again, this is just the first step of the community park, drafting a conceptual plan. When we realize what this may or may not cost, again, board decisions on where those funds will move. I mean, I think we have a pretty competent board, a pretty fiscally responsible board. And right now we're just in a very early preliminary phase based on the direction the board gave, come up with the conceptual plan of the community park. We're a long ways off from breaking ground, so to speak. As a whole, if you took a look at that presentation, it's a very broad presentation with a lot of different components. There's different phases that they want to approach this community park. One of the very early phases that was brought before us a year ago was the disc golf, which is a very low maintenance feature in the park. I believe the community council has already dedicated monies to that to fund it. That may be the first phase that comes in, and we'll look at the different phases as we head down the road. So I don't necessarily want the community to worry about public safety, the cost of the park coming out of the CCSD budget right away. I don't think that's the intention of this plan, but those concerns are valid based on our budget, right? I mean, the budget's black and white. It tells you what we have and what we don't have. And, you know, I'll defer to Director Thomas, but I think we're in agreement as well as the pros committee saying, we know the CCSD can't afford to fund this park. Staff time, it'll take some staff time, you know, because we got to go through the permitting process, and ultimately it's our property. So there will be staff time and there will be costs associated with it. And we'll have a discussion at the strategic planning meeting about staffing, project managers. There's a lot of things to come. But your concerns are heard, Christina, and their concerns of myself, because I have to manage a very nimble and tight budget when it comes to the CCSD. And of course, you know, the chief is concerned about fire protection. So is the board, so is the community. But there's also a portion of the community that's interested in parks and rec and open space. So where do we find that that fine line where we can do that dance fiscally responsibly? But I hear you. And there's a lot more there's a lot more discussions to come. I just want to preface this is just a exploratory preliminary design of the park. And before we move forward with the park, the board is going to have a broad discussion on the funding and financing. And I'm gonna bring it back to Director Thomas to make sure I spoke correctly about that.
Well,
Agree
I
completely.
just want to say one thing. May I? Because again, I don't know if I don't know if I'm interrupting because I'm not on the video. I'm sorry. If
You're
I'm
good.
going out of term. No, because I just really want to. I think that I had a little bit of a reaction. You know, Christina is probably one of the most well-educated citizens we have. So she may have been. She was being very polite when she said she needed to educate herself. I think she is very well educated. I just encourage the board, maybe, and this is not the forum to do that, but encourage the board to make sure that they're listening. You guys have a lot to balance, but the difference between the skate park, make sure there's a groundswell of support in the light of all the other challenges in fire safety and public works. Just make sure there's a groundswell of support.
Yeah, thank you, Cecilia. Yeah, and I think to Jeff Bloom, and hopefully I'm getting your point correct, Jeff. I think as a community member, it would be really cool to see, like, and I know you guys have your strategic plan, but like, what, like, absolutely are we taking seriously as a district? Like, what are we spending that money on? And then what do we have in terms of like staff time and funding to kind of feed into these other things, and I'm sure you're
Well, there's no smoke and mirrors. It is really a lot like what Jeff Bloom said a moment ago. Like when you ask what is the district focused on, yeah, look at our strategic plan, look at our mission, look at the core areas, look what we've written down. And I mean, that is what we're about. That is what we're intending to deliver for this community. And just like any family, right? I mean, how do you manage a budget? So much goes to rent. Well, okay, how much can we afford? Well, you still have to eat. Like, wait, the kids need shoes and clothes for school. Like, oh my God, we have to buy books too, right? And you want to go on a vacation somewhere? It's quite similar, and so we've
but
got.
right, don't sometimes people say like, we can't go on vacation this year,
Yeah.
so it's like sometimes as a community member, when you're hearing about a park and you're like, okay, but is this the year, or is this like the fire year, or the year that we kind of get this whole thing squared away? And I'm saying that like only because we don't know, like most of us aren't, and thank you, Cecilia, for being kind. Like I do try to do my research, and even with that, I feel like I end up not fully understanding like what is absolutely 100% our priority as Cambria as a district. But we don't have to keep, I know people have places to go. I have like an amazing person here that I want to introduce you guys to, who hopefully will be our business rep. So we'll keep on and keeping on unless anybody
Tina,
else.
can I say one thing in closing? March 3rd, strategic planning meeting. We had the public comment session before the which is before the March 3rd meeting. There's no public comment at that meeting, but you're going to hear the board and staff discuss these priorities. So I would encourage all those that are concerned about it, listen to the dialogue that's going to happen at that meeting. We'll talk about priorities and things of that nature. It'll be a robust discussion. And so if there's any curiosity into where we're heading into 2026 and beyond, that's a great meeting to attend.
Matt?
Yes.
I guess that what you're saying the March 3rd, I think is 3rd, is the strategic planning meeting, which will be the major step to coming up with your budget. And obviously, as you've pointed out before, the budget is the key driver, and Michael has said the same thing. That tells when we can go on vacation or what we can do, or whether we can do the skate park or whatever.
A little bit, right? So we are trying to integrate long-range budgeting into the strategic plan. The budgeting process happens every single year. When we look at the strategic plan, we're looking 3 to 5 years in the future. Of course, when you set the strategic plan, there's cost associated with that. It's not necessarily runs in parallel with the budget. There's budget implications, but it is a strategic planning workshop in which we're going to look at those long-range goals that the board will set that will have budget implications, and the budget will be each year will be chipping away at those long-term goals. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, add to that. Right. Strategic plan defines in a lot of ways what we're going to do different, better, the things we're going to do to enhance or improve our capabilities. But running along, everything that has to keep the business running, maintaining. I mean, all of those things, each department knows what they are, and that drives a huge portion of the budget. And then, then you ask, what's the capacity for change? And the strategic plan, in a lot of ways, drives the types of change that, we will take on.
Well, thank you guys. And maybe that's something, I don't know, next month or the month after, and we can have like a fun little recap. But seriously, thank you for engaging that conversation, because I think those are difficult conversations that you can't always have at a board meeting and stuff like that. So, and I do think it's helpful for the public, even if we've run a little long, and I can see Karen's face. Okay, so if you guys are okay and we can move on, then well, Matthew, did you have a report for us, or?
Why, are you done listening to me talk?
Well, you're next on the agenda. Yeah.
Is everybody exhausted already? I'll give some quick updates. So we obviously met with the NCAC at the Water Reclamation Facility along with the Coastal Commission. We had some great conversations there. There's lots of questions asked. Our information hold that we've had on the Water Reclamation Facility has been sitting there. We've been working on some of that documentation, but if anybody remembers, we did a consultant service agreement with SWCA, we call them SWCA, to work on things like our policy consistency analysis, addendum to the EIR, addendum to our adaptive management plan. All of those documents came in about a week ago, and we are in a rat race to compile all of that and apply it to the information hold. And so I've spent some late nights creating a document in which we're going to answer that information hold. And we hope to send that to the county tomorrow. So that document should go to the county tomorrow, answering some of what we hope is going to be the information hold. I want to remind the community that the information hold is a common process. Even if we submit those documents and answer the information hold, we will get more requests for more information, which is an information hold. So it's a little bit of a washing machine and a cycle that we're in. So I don't want to mislead and say that there's not more steps to be had, but we've made some great progress, and it's taken us a while to get here. Stewart Street tanks, we're working through the CDP process, and it appears we're going to be heading into a hearing on that coastal development permit to construct the Stewart Street tanks. Cannon Engineering on the water and wastewater effluent line is at about 90% of their drawings. We anticipate, based on some funding manipulation, potentially going into a RFP for construction on that. We are working with Chief Burkey, and he'll speak to it here in a little bit. And we spoke to it earlier on some community outreach for community awareness about fire protection. We have worked closely with NCAC, specifically Christina, Chief Burkey, and myself on a grassroots movement to come to and bring each specific neighborhood to the Vets Hall to go over all the different things that need to happen for fire preparedness, just emergency preparedness, and give you as many resources as we can. The fire down south spoke to a lot of us. You know, I know Christina had a lot of friends and family down there, and I think it kind of touched all of California. And so we were already in the process of doing these type of things, and this just kicked it into high gear. So we're going to move forward, and we're going to have some one-on-one events with these different neighborhoods starting in March. Correct me if I'm wrong, Christina, but March 24th through the 28th, we're going to have 5 different days, individual sessions with these different neighborhood blocks, talking about basically emergency preparedness. What else is going on in the district? The skate park project, we're waiting for the final federal funding and we pretty much from the CCSD side, we've completed all of our federal requirements, and we are pending funding. There was a little hiccups with the new administration that came in. As we know, President Trump at one point froze some of the federal funding, unfroze it, so that caused a little bit of a delay, but we're awaiting funding on the CCSD side. The Community Council, Cambria Community Council, is working on some continued fundraising for their portion of the matching part of that grant to construct the skate park. There's been some inflationary issues in terms of funding. Our engineering estimates have come in a little bit higher than some of the original estimates that came in years ago. So we're in a little bit of a funding gap. However, the Community Council is working with Skate Cambria on some fundraising, and there can be there's some hope there that we can close that gap. But until then, we're kind of in a standstill there, even if we receive some federal funding. As Director Thomas noted, the community park is moving forward. The community park master plan is moving forward, and we'll be speaking to that potentially in the future, not only at the pros meetings, but at the board meetings. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Ted Key. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew. I only have one question. You were talking about permitting and so on. Are we all set with the bureaucratic stuff for the upcoming pilot project that the ZLD project, which should be coming down the pipe in a few months?
The bureaucratic stuff?
Yeah, all the permits or whatever it takes.
Does that ever end, Ted? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. You tell me, man. You're the expert.
So we've pretty much got a lot of the division of drinking water. We've got basically a lot of the approvals at that level established. What we have to do is wait to make sure that we have the pilot equipment ready, and then we're going to move into the season in which it's most primed to operate. And
right.
I'm not the best person to talk about this, but I've been talking closely enough with Jim that I think we're in a good position. We've talked to the Coastal Commission and the county about this pilot project. But because we couldn't get the pilot apparatus ready.
Yeah, it's on the way.
Yeah, it's on the way, but we want to operate it during the period in which we
Right.
might operate the WRF. So that pushes us into, the July,
Yeah.
August timeframe. So I think we have everything in line there. And we should be good to go. And we've got some approvals from some regulatory agencies to move forward with the project. We've got a lot of information from Global Water Innovations as far as
Clark tells me that they're very close with the machine, and they're going to be doing another private project before us. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I think we're in a good position, and we're keeping the Coastal Commission and the county involved in every step of the way. But this, good or bad, it buys us a little bit of time because we're still in the process of this, CDP process.
Yeah.
It's a part of the project description, as is the alternative of hauling away the brine. So we've left both options on the table with the hope that this pilot project in the fall of this year will kick off with board approval. I want a disclaimer.
Sure, right. They have to prove it, but I'm just concerned about all the the hoops you have to jump through to make sure that when the equipment comes rolling in, all you have to do is hook it up.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks.
You bet.
Thank you. Thanks, Ted. Thanks,
Mhm.
Ted. All right. Chief Burkey, do you want to share anything with us, or anybody have any questions for Chief Burkey?
Oh, I do.
Go right ahead. I'm all ears.
Okay, Chief Burkey, I had a question this afternoon about I've got some old fire hose that I'm planning on using on a project which you may see much more of later. But anyway, I wanted to know about cutting this stuff and whether there were any asbestos or other harmful materials in this stuff. So I called over to the fire house, and I couldn't get anybody on the phone. So I drove over with the stuff to see if I could shake somebody out of the roof, and there wasn't anybody there either. So it was a little concerning to me that there wasn't anybody in the fire station. And I'm like, wait, where are they? So maybe you can tell me what, I mean, are people supposed to be there all the time, or what's going on?
So no, well, thank you for stopping by and thank you for calling. I apologize for not being there and apologize not for getting the phone call back to you. There are ways on the website to reach me if you need that information. There's more, you can do a kind of quick inquiry and it'll send me an email.
Yeah.
But to answer the question about the firehouse being empty, most of the time it's empty. Because that's the crew's home. They are out responding to calls. They're out in the public, actually doing work and again responding to emergencies most of the time. So that fire engine's parked in there, but if they're gone, they're gone. We don't have anybody manning that fire station 24/7. They are on duty 24/7, but they're out in the public. In the fire engine, I'm the same way. So today was a very busy for me, a very busy day for me as far as driving around the community, and we're surprise, surprise, we're still looking at weed abatement and trees that are a concern, and just the citizens' concerns about those things. So we're always in and out. And so, yeah, coming by the fire station is always a hit and miss kind of thing.
Okay. How can I get somebody to look at this stuff and tell me, what the composition of the material is? That's my concern, because I'm going to be wanting to cut this stuff, and if there's asbestos in it, I sure don't want to be releasing that in the atmosphere.
You shouldn't have any. How old is your fire hose? Are we talking?
Probably old. It's old. It was decommissioned fire hose. So
if it hasn't disintegrated yet, most likely it does not have asbestos in it. So you should be 100% fine. Again, usually the fire hose that was made that has asbestos in it is completely been. You wouldn't even be able to cut it. It would be of no use. It would be completely disintegrated for most part.
Well, yeah. I mean, if there's any nasties in this stuff, I don't want to use it all. Is there any time when I might be able to just run by and have somebody take a quick look at it and say, yeah, you're okay?
again, you can stop by. I encourage you to stop by, but it's hit and miss whether they're going to be there or not. It's really difficult for me to say, come by at noon. We'll be there at noon, unless you made an appointment with me and I could, next week schedule a time for you to come by or something along those lines.
Great.
I could be there, but the fire department, typically they're an emergency service. So they're if they get an emergency call, they're gone.
Well, this is gonna take all of 3 seconds looking at this thing. So maybe I'll send you an email and we'll figure out a time when you can just run your eyes, or somebody. It doesn't have to be you.
Okay, Ted, I love you, and you guys will connect and we'll figure it out, or Ted, I'll help you figure this out, but we got to keep it moving.
Sure.
But I appreciate you and thank you for being here and welcome back. Okay, Burkey, do you want to share with us any reports or anything exciting?
I can go over my monthly report super quick, just as far as call volumes. So in the month of January, we had a total of 90 incidents. We had 2 false alarms, 25 public service assists, 0 hazardous conditions, 62 medical emergencies, and 1 fire. And that fire happened to be, we sent our water tender down to the Palisades fire. So that was quite the experience and quite a good opportunity for our agency to be recognized on such a large global event that occurred. And I was very proud of our fire department and proud of our agency as a whole to be able to send those crews down and assist our neighboring cities and areas for their emergency. So what I really wanted to talk about was our upcoming emergency preparedness meetings. And so that we keep mentioning that they're, fire protection or fire awareness, and that for sure is going to be tackled at these meetings. But I want to make sure that we're talking about emergency preparedness on all levels. It's not just fire or evacuation. We're trying to hit everything for our community. And to be clear too, the meetings, as far as my vision, is this isn't a one and done thing. It's not in March and we're done. I want to bring this back every year. I want to make sure that we have this continued preparedness, empowerment to our community for all things emergency. These meetings are meant to be a little bit more intimate. So we wanted to break them up per neighborhood to try and bring the communities separated a little bit. I mean, most of the information will be the same, but I wanted to really kind of tone it down a little bit for those specific areas and make it, again, a little bit more intimate for them to ask those questions that are specific to their area. So briefly, we're looking at March 24th through 28th it's the Monday through Friday for those tentative meetings. We haven't solidified those dates yet. I want to make that clear too, because what we're doing is we're trying to reach out to these other entities that are going to be presenting or being available for your questions at these meetings, which is going to be Sheriff, State Parks, County OES, Red Cross, and obviously ourselves, CAL FIRE, to just name a few, CHP as well. So more to come on that. I'm really excited about this. I think this is going to be great for our community, and it at least gives the opportunity for people to have better access, or for us to bring that information to the community on a different platform. All of this information that we've been talking about is out there right now. It's current. You can do the research. You can look at it. Most of these websites, or the entities' websites that I talked about just now or mentioned, are on the website, on our website. So I encourage people to go to those websites, check them out, get that information. Again, emergency preparedness is no joke, as we're constantly reminded of multiple times a year. So the time to prepare is now, and we're trying to do the best we can as a district to again empower our community. That's really all I wanted to touch on. I'm open to any questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I don't think I've been seeing hands most of the night, but I don't see any. And yeah, thank you for doing that. And then I don't know, is David Pearson still here with the Fire Safe Focus report? No. Okay. Okay, well then. Oh, let me see if somebody's trying to jump in. Okay, so Cecilia, did you have a report for us?
No, not really. Our project is moving along, which is good. We too are a little worried about what could happen. We had $1 million grant from the community, from the Panetta had gotten us, but we haven't had it taken away from us yet. So, so far so good.
Thank you. Okay, well then we are going to get this show on the road, and I am excited. Do you want to steal my spot? To introduce Victoria. She is the newest employee of the Chamber of Commerce, and I hope to be our business rep, and she has been here patiently listening to all the craziness, and so I'm gonna let her steal my spot and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here. I lived in Cambria for 12 years, and so I'm really glad to be representing our town because, as we all know, it's a beautiful place. Yeah, I wish I had more to say, but I look forward to connecting with you all and hopefully getting to know some of you. So just reach out. I'm at the Chamber of Commerce, and if you're ever in town, come say hello. So thank you.
Yay for a business rep. Yeah, so we're very excited at the chamber to have Victoria on, and yeah, she's amazing. So now everybody can kind of pop by there and say hello to her and get to know her. All right, and then Kermit, did you want to go? Do you want to share what we kind of emailed about?
Yes, I would. I'll make it here quick. Okay, Kermit Johansson, Transportation, and that's pretty much all I do on the committee. Don't want to do much more, but what I'm trying or want to talk to you about today is we have an opportunity to meet with some Caltrans. They're really slow, San Luis Obispo. I'm lost for words. I'm half asleep. That's why. I'm in vacation in Mexico City, so I'm sitting in a little Airbnb condo talking on my phone as opposed to like Matt has, a little bit better expense account apparently. But the Slo County is working with the Highway Department, Caltrans, and we have a number of cities. There's like 10 of the small ones. San Miguel, us, Paso. Everyone is always fighting traffic and safety issues. Now they have a consultant and that's organizing this. He's also organizing with Cal Poly students that are going to go through and look at various safety issues. They've got some maps that are available on the handouts that you have dealing with the thing, and I think 12 sites. They have different sites lined up for meetings, about 1 or 2 hour meetings for walkthroughs. And these walkthroughs are something that they typically do for safety reasons to say, is this really that big a deal? Is that big a deal? It's an opportunity for the citizens of the community to sort of highlight what it is they think are safety. I've added the issues of the 4 intersections across that our community is divided by Highway 1 and bifurcates, the town. As far as pedestrians are concerned, cars, we have, lights and stuff like that, but pedestrians are scampering pretty much as we go. So, one thing we can do is try to go to Caltrans, and Caltrans has money. Caltrans has not a lot of it, but if they can prioritize some issues or low cost things, some things may get done over the years. So we have a meeting set up on our terms. We have 2 communities in the NCAC concern, since we go from Harmony up to the Ragged Point or, county line and out to Rocky Butte. Our two areas of concern are Cambria and San Simeon, which have been noted. And the San Simeon issue is obviously the lights and the tourists and people scampering across the roads during high traffic years. And then Cambria, they have us down for this interior town, and goes on, and it's something I probably did submit to them also, like the walk pathway, Coast High students walking all the way. If you don't have a car, if you don't take the bus, you're walking on the side street. We don't have a sidewalk that goes all the way up to Coast Union High School, and I think that's just atrocious. Of course, stand in line for being atrocious for pedestrian walkways here in Cambria. So anyway, the issue is on the 25th of February at 9 o'clock. We will have the meeting in San Simeon, and it's shown on that map that you have as a handout, starting at the San Simeon Lodge, I think is what it is. But check the map, and it's going to be there at 9 o'clock. It's open to to whoever's interested. Representative of the area is Daniel De La Rosa, and he will be there, and I will be there, and whoever else wants to be there certainly can be, and probably the more the merrier from our side, but in the next meeting, it's at 1 o'clock in Cambria, starting at near the corner at the French Bakery. They want to do their walkthrough. I helped them think their priorities over, but he said I saw the maps that they had, and said they're not our community property or our communities necessarily. Safety is always an issue, but don't want to show up with a bunch of bike lanes proposed for downtown Cambria and knocking out the parking and space we do have. So anyway, that's just one of those things that everybody can differ with me, and you're certainly welcome to, but we aren't setting priorities. But one of the things we want to do is get on a list of things. I don't care what they choose to do, what they think is the biggest issue they're going to come up with. It shouldn't be just the traffic thing, because we're not killing people by the thousands, but we do have obviously safety issues. And that's what needs to be, should be driving on some of these smaller communities. We shouldn't have to wait for 180 people to be killed so that we have the statistic that makes demands. So that's essentially all I'm saying is on September 20, or excuse me, what month are we in? February 25th, we're showing up at 9 o'clock at San Simeon and 1 o'clock at the French Bakery for a walkthrough, and they will have a traffic consultant that will be waving his arms and saying how terrible everything's are, and it's our opportunity to sort of change our minds and find out other issues that we have. True, it'd be nice to have the sidewalk. Yes, we don't have strong concerns on a lot of issues, except can we get something done? Will somebody throw us some money? It sounds like a lot of other outfits do get money, but this does have this will have some kind of strange impact in the far future. We don't know what, but if we're not screaming for it, we will never. There's pieces of paper with names on it floating through the universe, and someday they might land and end up in fixing a problem we have in the community. So you're invited to attend. I'll tell you what happened next meeting, but look at the piece of paper that I gave you, or that is on the website, and that is it.
Kermit, thank you. Just to recap really fast, San Simeon, 10 a.m., Cambria, 1 p.m. And this is like a walk to kind of and not to simplify it, but like citizens would kind of be acting like they're just out and about. And so you're then safety issues are being assessed in real time. Is that what I'm
Yes,
to understand?
It's pretty much it. I expect a crowd of about 15. And that is probably about 9 of their people, or some of their consultants, the Caltrans expert, some Cal Poly students, and then the rest would be us. And they're going to sort of wave their arms and look for trouble, but they're not going to move out of that spot, because that's what they thought they would meet. And the guy said, well, we're not going to change anything. We'd be glad to talk to you about it, but we can't change the meeting site and the route at this time because it's been done. But doesn't mean we can't change our mind about, not having a bicycle path downtown Cambria is the highest priority in the world.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Karen's hands up, and so Karen, go. One last thing though, there will be walking. It's not, you guys aren't just meeting like out front of the French bakery and then like.
No, it's all sidewalk, walking action.
Oh, there is
And
walking.
that's why we didn't have time to change the schedule and like hit other points. It'll
Okay.
be staying on the sidewalk, yelling at each other about priorities.
Perfect. Sounds fun.
Yep.
Karen.
Kermit, I wrote down 9 o'clock at the San Simeon Lodge. Is it 9 or 10?
9.
Okay.
Did I
thank
say 10? I might have said 10.
I
No,
meant
no, no.
that. Thank you,
No,
Karen.
you said 9, I think. I just wanted to confirm it. 9
Yes.
in San Simeon and 1 o'clock at the French Corner Bakery.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Kermit, is it a more the merrier, or is it like the more people there, the more confusing and the less clear it is about what the priorities are?
I think it's pretty much all of the above. Don't worry about it. See how it comes out.
All right, thank you. And yeah, and if you want us to put anything up on the site, then I'll do
No,
that.
did you put up the maps that I had sent you or anything like that they had proposed?
You sent a few documents, but if you tell me which ones you think are best, then I'll put those up.
Okay.
That was,
I won't have it.
I'm sorry,
Somebody,
1 o'clock, what day again? February
February 25th.
25th, thank you.
So Christine, I would just put up the 2 maps of they have a whole file of this stuff, which you might have to include, but
Okay.
just the maps of Cambria and San Simeon, and that should be good enough.
Cool, okay. And Christine, I don't know if you're still there and awake, but if this is anything that's of interest for Cambria, obviously, I can put you and Kermit in touch if you're not already. Okay, did you have anything else, Kermit?
No.
Thank you, and thank you for that. I think, it sounds like a lot with people hearing it, but once we get the documents up, when you see it, it's actually like super cool, and it's just amazing work that you've done. So thank you.
Well, I just caught it and I'm throwing it out. So we'll chase this thing as best we can.
Yeah,
Oh,
all
And I have Brandy here with ag.
It kind of follows up with sort of the fire concerns, because the more rural roads with all of the rains, and so we're looking at where the funding is coming and how we can maintain the roads better before they deteriorate when the rains come, in case there is a fire. And because there's on San Simeon Creek Road or Santa Rosa Creek Road and even Cayucas Creek Road, I know it's out of the way, but that's the only way they can get in and out. And so with these rains that come, the roads are being washed away, and all of those people in the rural communities wouldn't have access to go anywhere. So
Well,
what's that?
Yeah.
well, that is true, but we need to ask, this is probably a Caltrans issue with the Caltrans funding. So let's find out. I'm not afraid of chasing those issues, but let's find out where their world is. If it's Caltrans is funding them, then all we want to hear is Caltrans issues.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm looking at, whether it's Caltrans
But
or which.
Caltrans doesn't work on anything except state highways.
Gotcha, right. So.
Highway 1, Highway 26,
Mhm.
but not San Rosa Creek Road.
Correct.
I don't think. So we'll have to find out exactly what their limits are.
Right. Cool. And so
But you're welcome to attend and discuss that. Because they have like Curry Road down. And I don't even know where Curry Road is, but that was one of their major community concerns.
Yeah, I think it is. Cecilia, aren't you over there?
On Curdy Creek
Yes,
Road?
that would be my road.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you've got a road that you need, but my point would be I'd rather have the public issues of Highway 1 and so forth.
Oh.
But this is, again, we're
Okay.
nowhere on this. We don't know what it is we're going to prune out of this, but I think that that's on their discussion list. And I have no idea where Curry Road is. But anyway, it doesn't make any difference.
All right, well, thank you, Kermit, and yes, and thank you, Brandy, so you guys can connect over that. Okay, so, and you guys met Victoria, so Karen, that leaves you. Do you want to talk to us about outreach and correspondence?
Only to say that next door tells me that just under 900 people looked at my post. And I was a day late posting it this month. And I'm sure all those people meant to come to this meeting, but something got in the way. The end.
Well, there are a lot of people who look at the video afterwards.
Good, good.
All we can do is try. Yeah, so, all right, I think that's it, unless anybody has anything else, just thank you guys, and thank you guys, and thank you guys, and I don't know, I mean, I realize that not a lot of people were here, but I do think it's valuable that we're able to have conversations and agree and disagree, and I actually am excited about the whole right away, like, discussion, because it means like people care and they're paying attention, so yeah, sorry it's late, and thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you, Christina. You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you, Cecilia. All right, you guys.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.